name's Yuchen. Welcome to another video of Printed Matter. It's finally raining now, and I hope you don't mind the sound of the thunder, because I think it sounds pretty nice. So after Solowood, I knew I was going to talk about Ed Ruscha. If you consume artist books like I do, you probably already know about 26 Gasoline Stations. And even if you don't, I'm sure you have seen or even own the books that's heavily influenced by 26 Gasoline Stations in their methodology, their design language, and their overall attitude. Ed Ruscha's artist books are generally considered seminal, and they are. However, I found myself procrastinated for even longer than usual, and I later diagnosed this procrastination a lack of confidence. I think between Ed Ruscha's work and me, a reader, a viewer, there are some cultural obstacles. For example, Los Angeles, whose landscape, history, and vibe are so essential to Ed Ruscha's art and his presence, is unfortunately something I don't have enough exposure to. Another example would be automobile, which repetitively served as subject matter in his paintings, drawings, prints, books. Not only that I don't drive, but I think the car culture of the US is such a specific economic, political, and cultural construct that's foreign to me in many senses. In my research, I came across a sentence that goes, Ed Ruscha to Highway is what Andy Warhol to soup can. And I felt very lost twice. Of course, I can study, I can read the facts, the opinions, but it will be hard for me to feel it. It's like learning the mechanics of a joke, and in doing so, I kind of lost the opportunity to laugh. So here I want to first admit that this will be a somewhat limited read to a much layered and empirical artistic practice. So with that in mind, we will start with 26 Gasoline Stations. I don't have the original in hand. We have it in our store in Chelsea. What I'm holding is titled 26 Gasoline Stations, quote, Photography Unquote, by a Berlin-based artist, Michalis Pichler, published in 2009. It's a book of photographs of Michalis Pichler flipping through the original 26 Gasoline Stations, page by page. Artist books that pay homage to Ed Ruscha's 26 Gasoline Station are actually so many that constitute a genre that in our store we have a section dedicated to, and I will talk about those later too. But for now, this will serve for us a window to look at the original 26 Gasoline Stations. So, in 1963, Ed Ruscha photographed 26 gasoline stations along the highway from his home in Los Angeles to where he grew up, Oklahoma. And each opening of the book shows one or two gasoline stations in pretty standardized layout on the top with very even margin. and the caption tells us the name and the location. For example, this one is called Mobile, and it's at Shamrock, Texas. This one is called Standard, and it's at Williams, Arizona. And the cover has the title printed in 3 separate lines in red. Originally, it comes with a wax jacket like this. So it's pretty generic. That's why I felt really surprised when reading about the production process in an interview Ed Ruscha did with Willoughby Sharp. I will read to you some of the conversations. Ruscha, months went into the planning of that. I could have saved myself a lot of trouble by loosening up, not gotten so concerned with how I wanted the scene to look. I changed the format about 50 times at the printers. I couldn't decide what I wanted. I just won't jump right in and do something spontaneously. I'm talking about making a work of art, not about anything else. Sharp, it seems you have a rather serious attitude towards Ruscha. Well, yeah, I'm serious about it. I'm dead serious about everything I make. Sharp, that's part of the humor though, isn't it? Ruscha, yeah, to have something come across as humor, you have to be methodical about it. It has to be planned carefully. This conversation is published on a really charming art journal called Avalanche from New York City from 1970 to 1976. I believe we have this issue in store. We will provide a link to it in the description of this video. I think I just started to grasp what's so innovative about Twentysix Gasoline Station upon reading this text, this conversation. I think it's difficult to have a fresh and private experience of a significant historical work of art, uncontaminated by the fame and the discourse that's already so established around it. But let's try imagine in 1961, a painter in the middle of the night had a quote, a brainstorm to make a book, unquote. This is very dramatic now. Book is something we know. We are surrounded by books. We have them by our pillow, in our backpack. We have them around since we were children, and we would expect knowledge, narratives, stories, and lessons from books. However, here, with methodical manipulation, we are offered so little, almost nothing but boredom. 26 gasoline station, and that's that. I think this work of art inhabits a shell that's familiar and ordinary, that is a book, while its core being completely subversive to our past experience and conception of books. Therefore, we feel off. We experience a slight shock. I think it's not unlike how haiku works. If it is a haiku, it will probably go, there are 26 gasoline stations from here to there, and these are the 26 gasoline stations. In Ed Ruscha's work, I realized that for the first time, this book had the inexplicable thing that I was looking for, and that was a kind of That's what I've always worked around. and this interview is titled "A Kind of Ha." I think it might not be a coincidence that the mechanics of a joke came to my mind when I tried to describe my somewhat frustrative encounter with Ed Ruscha's work. Humor apparently is critical to how his art works and deliberately doesn't work at all at some time. Even though the material of a joke is language, it stimulates a bodily reflex. You would get it before you can articulate why, and you would laugh, sometimes even involuntarily. And I think this visceral, unnameable, and secretly thorough engine of a good joke is not so far from the kind of ha that Ed Ruscha was so drawn to. It's a momentary disorientation as well as liberation from the structured craving and superstition towards information. Yes, Ed Ruscha first published the edition of 400 numbered copies and sold them for $3 each. As it was selling out, he published the second edition in 1967 for 500 copies, and the third edition in 1969 for 3,000 copies. So once and again prevented it from becoming precious. I once heard, I'm not sure if it's true, that he sold them at the gasoline stations where he photographed. And I know this for sure. He submitted to Congress Library and was rejected for unorthodox form and supposed lack of information. He then advertised Twentysix Gasoline Station on Art Forum by posting this rejection letter from Congress Library. Although rejections always make good anecdote in retrospect, but I do admire how unwavering and how anchored he was with his own gut feeling when there was no lineage before and no community around. Twentysix Gasoline Station was so new and so singular, and yet so sure about its own right to exist. In an interview in 2008, Ed Ruscha recollected, "When I got going on the books, that it was really the red meat of my work. It was a choice bit. Although I was painting pictures at that time, I felt that books were more advanced as a concept." And he kept going. I want to read to you some titles of Ed Ruscha's books that we have or had at Printer Matter. 34 parking lots in Los Angeles, 9 swimming pools and broken glass, a few palm trees, real estate opportunities, various small fire, every building on Sunset Strip. Last week, I just put 9 swimming pools and the broken glass out on display in the store. So I had the pleasure to flip through it again. I really love it. The shape and the idea of urban swimming pools are so boring that you start to see blue over pages. It's truly an unexpected, meditative experience. As specific and as factual these titles sound, it actually gets so ever slippery once you start to contextualize them. The first review Twentysix Gasoline Station received described it as a pop art piece. And I can see there are some surface-centric quality that's very pop, in the way that there's no avenue for you to go any deeper in any direction. also alienating everyday object is very pop. Also, there are also a lot of discussions about Ed Ruscha were made through the framework of photo documentary, how his works were part of this turn from the romanticism of American landscape to this cold gaze of new topographic. In an essay by Douglas Cribb, he recalled during a research trip he had at New York Public Library, he discovered a copy of 26 Gasoline Stations shelved not under art but under transportation, and he commented, Ed Ruscha's books make no sense in relation to the categories according to which art books are cataloged in the library, and that is part of their achievement. The fact that there is nowhere within the present system of classification of place for 26 Gasoline Station is an index of its radicalism with respect to established modes of thoughts. And not long after Ed Ruscha's experiments, a space dedicated to such radical ambiguity was created. And I think it's not an exaggeration to say that our entire inventory at Printed Matter and all the artist books made today benefit from 26 Gasoline Station in a way that they live in this space that's carved out by Ed Ruscha in between bookshelves and in between what is a book and what is not. I picked quite a few books that in one way or another continue Ed Ruscha's legacy. My lovely coworker Johanna and Brian helped to get them to me, but I feel like this video is long enough and they deserve a proper look at lens. So I think I will make a separate video on contemporary artist books that relate to Ed Ruscha. And as we are carefully planning on reopening our store, you're also welcome to stop by and flip through them yourself. Just make sure to sanitize your hands before and after handling books. So that's all I want to talk about today, and hope I will see you soon. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care. Bye bye.